Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the second video of 2 for week 2. So for this video, I would recommend you get some sort of IDE running so you can follow along. If you don't have one, I would also recommend you go up here to this Getting Set Up video and get PyCharm on your computer. This video is going to be sort of an intro to coding in Python. So let's get started. Start with values. So values are things like the number 42 or this string ABCDEF. The actual value is ABCDEF or 42, and the values have types associated with them. So the value 42 is type integer. The value 0.00005 is type float or floating point number. So for each of these values there is an associated type, and Python can actually tell you what type your value is. So if we go into here into the console, and how did I get here? I went to Tools, Python, or Debug Console. That opened this up, and then I click at the 3 green arrows, and I can check the type of some value, 3.88. Python will tell me that is a float. Okay, what's the type of Henry? Python tells me that's a string. So that's a bit about values and types. We'll move on to variables. Variables are very useful. They can store certain values, and they're written a certain way. So if I write a equals 7, then what I'm doing, I'm not saying that a is equivalent to 7. I'm saying that I have a variable name of a, and I'm assigning a value of 7 to that variable name. We can say a equals 8, and that will change the value. We could have also just done this, but another way of doing that is typing a equals 8 on the next line. If we print a, what do you think we'll print, 7 or 8? Well, Python is reading through this sequentially, so it's starting with a equals 7, then moving to a equals 8, and it's assigning a value of 7 to a, and then a value of 8 to a. So the final value for a is 8. And when you run this, when you run print a, you'll get a value of 8. So that's a bit about variables. We can add variables, subtract them. We can do all sorts of things. So we could say b is 8 and print a plus b. A plus b is 15. One thing I definitely want to mention for variables is how you should be naming them. So we could say my number is 5, but there's a certain way you should write your variables. So this way, the way I wrote it this way, is camel case. That's what it's called. Camel case because the first word is lowercase, and every subsequent word is capitalized. So this is camel case. Another way to write your variables is with underscores between each of the words. So these are two different ways of writing your variables out. Both of them are fine, but I would just recommend if you pick one, just stick with it. So be consistent, either use underscores or use camel case, but try not to mix both in your program. Some very important rules. You can't start a variable name with a number. So 5 mynum iterations, that's a syntax error. You also can't use crazy characters. The only characters you can use are alphanumeric and underscores. So letters A to Z, capitals, numbers, and underscores. You can't start with a number, but you can start with an underscore. Last thing, these variable names are case sensitive. So my num iterations, these two variables are different because of these capitals here. So it's case sensitive. What is a statement? So a statement is something you're telling Python to do. You're telling the Python interpreter to do. The interpreter interprets your code. So it reads whatever you write, and it feeds that to the lower levels of the computer. The computer executes the code using the machine sort of code that Python generates. Then it's fed back to you in the form of your output. So a statement is something you're telling the interpreter to do. I might say, interpreter, I want you to print hello. And so this is a statement. What's an expression? An expression contains things, not necessarily all of these things, but things like values, variables, and operators. A value would be a string or a number. Variable, we went over that just now. And an operator is something like plus, minus, multiplication, division. And we can do an example here. We can go to Tools and Console, and we can write an expression. So let's make a variable, my num equals 8. And note that these variables in this console are different than what we did in the script. These are two separate instances. So down here in the console, we have my num equals 8. And we'll write an expression out. We'll say not my num plus 7 times 5. So this is an expression. And these are operators, the multiplication and addition. These are different operators. We should also talk about the order of operations. So in Python, it uses bedmass, or order of operations. Bedmass, if you don't remember, brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So from left to right, that's the priority of your operators. So in this case, what do you think the answer would be? My num is going to be 8, but the addition is lower priority than multiplication. So first it's going to do 7 times 5, and then it's going to add that to my num. So we're going to get 35 plus 8, which is what? 43? 43. So yes, Python follows order of operations. And operators don't have to only be numbers. So say we have, let's say my cat's name is Wilson. Okay, that's my cat. We can use operators on strings. So we can say my cat times 3. And it'll just print Wilson 3 times. So yeah, operators are not just for numbers. We can use them with strings and with other things. Important terms to go over. immediate mode and script mode. So immediate mode is this console window here. It's called immediate mode because you type something and the output is instant. You don't have to run anything. So it's quick. That's a good advantage of that, but the disadvantage is you don't save it and get to open it and reuse it. With script, you can write all of your code in here, you can run it, you can edit it, you can close it, and then reopen it again. And I would say for all of your assignments and your homework and things like that, definitely use scripts. But script mode is the other type of mode. So we have immediate mode and script mode. So if you have any questions about anything I covered in this video, feel free to send me an email or come to the office hours. So that's it for this week. For next week, just make sure you're going through the textbook. And there are no tutorials this week, but they're going to be starting next week. And in those tutorials, you're going to be running through some problems that I'll post. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.